So by 3 o'clock in the morning, I got to where I was going to an outfit, Armored Amphib Battalion. And it was a tent area, which was nice. And right beside it was a bunker with a rope tied on the chain to find your way down to the bunker in case at nighttime. And Bet Jack Charlie came around real early. At 10:30 maybe at night, he'd like to get you up. And next morning, he'd be around 4 o'clock in the morning, Bet Jack Charlie. There's a little Piper plane. He was throws grenades out of the plane.
Hi, this is Bruce Lindsay working with Elizabeth Gallo on our continuing project to document the stories of veterans. Today we are with Anthony Stabile, a Marine Corps veteran of World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Over his career of 27 years, he rose from the rank of private to eventually earn a commission and retired as a captain. After his military career, he continued to serve his community in many ways, and Anthony Stabile epitomizes the reason why this channel is called It's About Service.
I'm Anthony D. Stabile, retired captain in 1972, served in the Marine Corps from 1945 to 72, and throughout the worlds of travel, I've been to China, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, Okinawa, all the nice places. sunny Far East. But my duties were in motor transport, except recruiting. When I was on recruiting duty, I was at Sunbury recruiting 3 years. I'll put that in a little later, but I'll show you the E flag I have. I had it for 30 months out of 36, and they said, you had to take it all the time. It's right around the corner there on the door. But anyhow, I was in motor transport after boot camp. There was 5,000 Marines on this ship, USS Wakefield, left Norfolk, Virginia, down to the Panama Canal. Stopped there for 3 days, got food and resupplied, and we went to Hawaii. They did the same thing there, and then off to Japan. We stopped at Yokohama, and then after that, we come back out of the harbor and went to Tsingtao, China. That was the first stop. It was about the middle of the East Coast. They left off about 2,000 Marines. Next stop was in northern China, Tientsin, but the ship's harbor name was Yaku, I think, or something like that. But cold. I mean cold. We got off the ship, we went on an LSM, and might have had a foot of ice where we stood there until they loaded that. Then we got off of that and went into a big warehouse that had no windows. They were all broken from the ammunition, I guess, World War II. They had 2 pot-belly stoves in there, I'll never forget it. And how you were going to get warm in there with 2,000 guys, I'll never know. Only the guys that were around this pot-belly stove got warm. And that's the first time I drank coffee out of a canteen. And it was hot, and the coffee was hot and burned my mouth. Of course, I got initiated then, how to drink coffee out of a canteen. But and then we got on a train. We were going to our station, 5 miles. It took 5 hours to go 35 miles on that train. And the train was ice cold. We sat across the seats, put our feet on one seat, and the guy on that side put the seat here. We put the overcoats over the feet so we get our feet warm. And like I said, it took 35 hours to get to Tientsin. And then they broke us off to different units. I was in the 7th Service Regiment of the Motor Transport Battalion, and the barracks we had were old Japanese barracks, that were there, all concrete, and at another place, no heat. But we got initiated how to get a fire going in there. We went out and scrounged the stove and put up some firewood in it and lit it up. That's how we got warm. So my job there was in motor transport was maintenance. And the trucks every morning left and picked up a load of Japanese, maybe 10 trucks had a load of Japanese prisoners on them. They took them to unload ships or stack the material out in the field. That was our stevedores. And they had 12-hour shifts, 6 to 6, and at night shift went 6 to 6 the next morning. So that's how they unloaded the ships. And then they had their own barracks, the Japanese did, and they owned their own guard, own mess hall, and commanding officers, rougher than hell on them, on the prisoners. He was mad at them and also mad they lost the war. So he double beat them when somebody did something wrong. But we kind of laughed at that, but he had control of them, so we had nothing to do but fix the trucks and take them out and they could bring them back. And our barracks was, like I said, concrete. And I was there about 3 months doing that, and the guys are starting to go home from World War II. And this one guy said to me, he says, "You've been recommended to stay here, be the quarters NCO. 1 day on, 2 days off." I said, "That sounds good." So I got that job as a duty NCO, they called it. And so I worked that day, 1 day and 2 days off, and that's how I went around the city and bought stuff and looked around. That's how I learned the city, walked the city, because we could wear uniforms around there and nobody bother you. And that's what I did for the rest of my time there in China. And then from there, I went to Washington, D.C., 8th and I. And that is a lovely place to be stationed if you want to be spit shined in at that time. Now everything's patent leather. Spit shine your buttons, spit shine your shoes, stand formations, do parades every Friday night, sunset parade, which was great. After that was Liberty. But the job you had during the day, from your regular job, you would be a pallbearer, as I told Bruce here. 20 veterans was buried Wednesday and 20 veterans on Thursday. Marine Corps was on Wednesday and the Navy was on Thursday. And we pallbearers, and after that, we went back to our regular job until it was needed somewhere else. And from China, I said, or from 8th and I said, I got to get out of here. So I got to go learn something better and do something. So I put in for motor transport school, mechanic school, to be better than I was. I went down to the school December 48. Class started in January 49. But before that, I'll tell you a little story here. They put you on assistant duties, doing whatever was necessary. Put me on a guard, walked from the main gate at Camp Lejeune with 4 other guys and chased prisoners. They were along there picking butts up. And we had ammunition. And this one guy said, "I'm leaving." I said, he was on my line. I said, "You leave." I loaded the M1 rifle. He stopped right there. He come back to his line. When I got into the prison, I told the warrant officer, I said, "I don't want this job. I come here to learn. I didn't come here to kill somebody." Because if he'd have left, I'd have shot him. That's what you're supposed to do. And so I went to school, motor transport school, and come out there pretty good. And while I was there, like I said, they recommended me to stay as an instructor. I didn't like it, but the promotion was good. That's why I stayed. Made corporal, And by 1949 ended, I was a sergeant. Korean War broke out. I made staff sergeant. And we tried to get out of there to go to Korea. Because I don't know if you know this. They put a K in front of your serial number if you went to Korea. And that would get you promoted faster if you went to war and come back. I said, hell, I'll try that too. But never got out at that time. Every time we got set of orders to go to Korea, the colonel, he wouldn't call Washington, D.C. He flew up there. You're not taking them guys. So we stayed there until we got orders. When he went on vacation, we got orders to go to Korea. Man, we bugged out of there pretty fast to get to go to Korea. So you got to California, you had a month's training there before you left the States, but we went to cold weather training, pickle metals, they called it. That was fun. Living up on top of the hill or getting up to the top of the hill was fun. With snow, you're slugging your way up. In the pup tent at night, and snowed, and pup tent came down. And the shade next morning, nothing but ice water. Like I said, it was fun. So we got out of there after a few days, and I think we were there a week. On the way up, might have had 10 big buses going up there with troops in. One of them threw a connecting rod in to burn up, and the guy's gears was inside that bus yet. They got out and left the gear. All their gear was burned up. So there was short a bus coming back. They jammed them in the other buses. But we come back and came to Camp Pendleton, Tent 2, I think it was called. And we could see old Baldy every day where someday you're going to go up it. We had our chance to go up it too, to exercise. And finally the orders come in. We're going to go to Frisco to get out of there and take the ship to Korea. Okay. We got on a ship. It was called the USS Weigel. Merchant Marines were on that ship. The lousy food we got from that place, I'll tell you, it was a shame. They fed us. Fed food poisoning the first night. First set of people that went to food in the morning ate, and they got food poisoning. Food poisoning was from hell over dehydrated eggs. Yeah. Yeah. And then after that, everybody was careful what they were eating because we don't want to take a chance of getting sick. But from there on, we had machine guns in the back of the fantail and shoot that. And the balloons were out in the back to try to hit the balloons that was flying. Played cards and washed your clothes, tie them to the rope and throw them on the side, over the side, let the waves beat the heck out of them. That's how they got washed. And when I got to Korea, it was like midnight, nice and dark when you're in a fresh area there and don't know where you're at. Enemies all around you. And President
Truman was president until 52, and then Eisenhower was elected after.
Eisenhower got elected. He came over there that night. Yeah, he was in Korea and flew over around, and I don't know where he landed at. Never did see him. But yeah, Eisenhower. And so by 3 o'clock in the morning, I got to where I was going to an outfit, Armored Amphib Battalion. And it was a tent area, which was nice. And right beside it was a bunker with a rope tied on the chain to find your way down to the bunker in case at nighttime. And Bet Jack Charlie came around real early. At 10:30 maybe at night, he'd like to get you up. And next morning, he'd be around 4 o'clock in the morning, Bet Jack Charlie. There's a little Piper plane. He was throws grenades out of the plane. And about 3 months after that, I think, he hit the fuel dump where the Air Force had their fuel in drums, and that fuel burned for about 3 days. It was at Kimpo. Kimpo was the air base in Peninsula. And you want to get my map there for me, please?
Sure.
The
Big one?
Yeah. That's the Armored Amphib Battalion machinery there, that vehicle. That's good. My outfit was right here, right across the river, and there was the North Koreans, and the Han River was right there, and that's where the bridge was that you were talking about. Yeah, yeah, that's South Korea. Thank you. So my duty there was motor transport chief for Abel, Baker, and Charlie companies, and of course my battalion area, and to make sure the jeeps and all had running conditions in case of emergency. And I even had a night crew that would back and forth the vehicles at night. Wheel bearing grease at that time was not viscosity. It was one grease, period. It would freeze. It was so cold it would freeze. And we didn't want to get stuck that we had to move out and couldn't buck out. So I had a night crew, 2 guys, move them trucks and jeeps every night for 10 minutes back and forth, and then do them all. I said, if one stays here and they're froze, you know what's mud. Yeah, but they did that job and did it well because everything moved the next morning when they had to move out. But like I was telling Bruce, we had a battery of 90 millimeter guns, Army operated along that coast that you saw, and a platoon of tanks that was Marine Corps along that river. And because if they wanted to come across, they would fire at them. And the river at one side was going down, really, and the other side was going up. It was swirled in the middle. The Han River was float. It didn't freeze much, but if it did, it just froze on the ends of the river where it was not moving much. And that's how they protected us with those people. And Abel and Baker had the far end of the peninsula where if they wanted to come around, they had that protected too. So that was, and I didn't know it, but when my motor transport officer that I had there, when he left, he put in my record book, give me a letter of appreciation. Didn't even know it until I come to the States and saw my book. But that was pretty good. That was my first one in the Marine Corps. I got 2 others and later on from General Kulik from FMF PAC. And today they give you a bunch of medals for that stuff. Am I telling the truth?
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, but it was worth getting because that helped me get promoted. But after Korea, 13 months there, I came home on the A.E. Anderson ship, and that was a pretty good ship, and we had 1,300 men on it, I think it was 13 to 15. We had good food. That was a Navy operated Navy ship, and we had good food on that. Even when I went to China on the USS Wakefield, I swore they bought every lamb they had in Australia. They tried to give that to us every night, lamb, and soup at noon, and breakfast, whatever you got was dehydrated, guaranteed. I come back to the States and took the train home and spent 30 days with my wife. At that time, my son was 9 months old when I went to Korea. Saw them 2 for 30 days, and she said, where are you going to be stationed at? And I said, Wyoming, Pennsylvania. Never been there, never heard of it. cut the maps out, start looking, and wound up, it was an easy route to get to from western part of the state. I was from Pennsylvania. I was from Pittsburgh area. You come out to the turnpike for a while, and then we got on here at that time. You get off at Middlesex, end of the turnpike. It wasn't clear to Carlisle now.
Wow.
It was, you get on at Irwin, off at Middlesex, which is near Carlisle.
Yep.
Yep. And easy to go up north from there. So we got the I&I duty, got to find a place to live, and then got situated. I went to work the first day. They said, you're going to be an instructor here, teach auto mechanics. Lovely. Because, and then we're going to try to get some engines here. You're going to take them apart and get them so you can put them back together again for the reserves. They would come there every weekend at that time. They would come every weekend to drill. And by the time I got done with, had 4 or 5 engines that they could take apart and put together by sections. In other words, get instructed this Saturday or this Monday and take them apart. And when you're done, you stop there until you come back. And they eventually put them together and run them. Yeah. And so I did that for 3 years. Got a set of orders. Where do I go? Motor Transport School. I went down to Motor Transport School and they said, hey, hi, welcome back. And they give you a section. I went to general repair. They're going to stay there for a couple of years, then you'll be going to engine instructions. And I stayed in general repair. This was repair the whole vehicle. When the people went to 4 or 5 months of school, then they could stop there and do the job, you know, regular mechanic. So I did that for 2 years and then transferred to the engine instruction class. So that was good. I enjoyed engine teaching because I did it up in Wyoming, Pennsylvania also, and learned that. And from there, I had enough of that for a while. You know how Marines get hot feet, they want to move somewhere else. I said, I want to go to recruiting duty. Put in for recruiting duty, my orders came back approved. 1959, I went down to Paris Island recruiter school. First formation I was in down there, Sergeant Major says, the captain here don't like mustaches. I'm in trouble here. I said, oh, when I went to Korea, the colonel didn't like mustaches either. He was the regimental commander. And the third day, the sergeant major says, you better get that off. They had enough of me with that mustache. Fourth day, what happens? Colonel leaves Korea. I had a twisty going pretty good. Because through cold weather, poking pickle nettles and over there in Korea, did a twisty. Cut it off. He goes, makes me madder than hell. And so after he leaves, I let a small one grow real small, and so somebody else wouldn't complain. But anyhow, when I was on recruiting duty, same thing. Third day, the sergeant major said, you better cut it off or you're getting out of school. I said, no, I don't want to leave that way. I want to stay here and be a recruiter.
So the thing is, Marine Corps regulations say you can have a mustache, but some individual commanders don't like them.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, the regs say I can have a mustache, but they tell you to shave it off anyway.
Yeah, if you want a mustache, you're getting out of here.
Yeah.
That was the ticket. Then I said, I don't want to get out of here. I want to stay and finish school. So I graduated at Paris Island recruiter school. My first month on recruiting in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, I won the award. What a mustache. Because I had it growing pretty good, you know, when I left school. I had a picture of me and I sent it to the captain. What can he do to me now? You know, and that's what I did. And I don't remember his name now, but and I had no more than I have now, really. But on recruiting duty, I had a one-man station, 5 counties, over 500,000 people, and I had a mental institution hospital there too. That counted as population too. Yeah, so I would get a quota or from the sergeant major. Everybody got quotas for different places. You had an area where I had 45 miles this way, 45 miles that way, and 40 miles north. So that was 90 around anyhow. I had a lot of schools. So I'm in recruiter school, and I go to all these schools, make speeches, and I could tell them about the mechanics, you know, I could teach them. And I had a book with me, how many schools we had in the Marine Corps, and I could show them after I was standing up and did that. And had the school, let's see, and I went to college up there, Bloomsburg College. 2 men up there were drill instructor on jiu-jitsu and judo at Paris Island. So I said, hey, how about coming down and giving some demonstrations at high school I was teaching or recruiting? He said, yeah, we'll do it. They went all over the county for me, all the schools. And now wind up, when they graduated, they give me their yearbook, college yearbook, with me in a parade before that, and these 2 guys too. So that was pretty good. So I graduated college without studying, but using my head as a recruiter. But anyhow, I recruited 244 men and 13 women in 3 years. And like I said, you got to go look at that flag around the corner. That E flag, go look at it. Just around the door hanging. Yeah, I had it for 30 months out of 36, and they says, take it with you. So when I left recruiter, they gave me the E flag and the staff NCO sword that you see up on my emblem up there. From there, I went to Okinawa, 63. And stayed there for 13 months. I was in the service battalion, and I was motor transport chief in the service battalion. Did that for a whole year, 13 months. Kept the vehicles in good shape for the battalion and the companies that they were in. And at that time, the dope started coming around. And the GIs could buy it across the counter in Okinawa. And I had trouble with some of them guys getting the dope. But they put them in the brig. I didn't have to mess with them. So I came back to the States and was transferred to the school, to another section. And that was 64. And in I was put in a research section. That's when I started learning that diesel. I was telling you about the multi-fuel engine. And this fuel injector here, the fuel would come in here and push that spring up, and then the fuel would come out the bottom. It would spray and hit a hot piston when it come up. That's what fired it. No spark plugs. So that was making training aids. And one Saturday, I had a fuel injection pump. I took it home, And I said, I got to study this thing. Got a hacksaw out, start cutting away. Made a fuel injection pump, a training tool. Took that to class Monday, and they were surprised to see it, how it worked. The fuel injection pump on that multi-fuel engine was a density compensator that you could put 7 different types of fuels in it. It will acculate inside of it, move around, and coagulate with the other fuel and come out of the injectors. It wouldn't lose much horsepower between the fuels. And the jets, when the jets would come in for repair, they could drain that JP4 or JP5, whatever it is, mix it with the diesel, and it would fire. That was saving fuel without, they would throw it away before. And that's what they would do with their JP4 and JP5. So that would save fuel. I think that kept them engines 20 years, those trucks. So after I learned that, I made a book.
Okay.
All right, from Vietnam, we went to Japan, Iwakuni, Japan, and we were going to teach the Japanese there how to repair and disassemble and repair the engine, multi-fuel engine, because they were an aviation unit for the Marine Corps. That's the vehicles they would have there. So stayed there a week and did that. We had a translator. The instructor would tell them in English, and of course the translator would give it to them in Japanese. We don't know what he told them, but but they did the job. They did the job. They wanted to learn, so that was good. And after Iwakuni, we flew back to El Toro, California, and a friend of mine was there, a motor T officer. We stayed there a week and teach his people, and then from there back to Camp Lejeune or Cherry Point, and I dispersed back to division. Went back to division, and the other guys went back to motor transport school. Got a letter of appreciation out of that too. That would have been another medal today. I have 20. That's enough, I guess. So went back to motor transport school, a motor transport company in the 2nd Marine Division. They said, you're not going to be here long because while you've been gone, they're building a building in Okinawa that's going to have to rebuild engine. Okay. So I was home maybe 60 days. Got a set of orders for Vietnam. And came home, repacked and changed gear in my foot locker. Kissed the wife and kids goodbye. And I left again. And I went to Camp Pendleton, this, what do they call that area? Reception area. What before you transfer? They had a name for it. Anyhow, I stayed there about 3-4 days waiting for orders to get on the plane to go to Vietnam. They said, you're not going there, you're going to Okinawa. And I said, okay. I went to Okinawa. I wound up going to FSR, Force Reserve Regiment. So you're going to be a motor transport engine rebuild. I said, I know where I'm going, that new building they just built. That's where I was going, to the engine rebuild. And I had only 665 engines left to rebuild till I get home. I said, yeah, thank you very much. They would take 2 or 3 engines apart to make enough to get one engine because they were in Vietnam already, busting them up. IEDs coming up through the engines and busting up the engines. The trucks would be busted up, and the truck they would repair the truck or replace whatever they had to replace, and I'd do the engines. And I had no clutch. You had to have a clutch in it before you could ship it, or the guys could use it. That's the FSN, and they said you can't do it no other way. Holy hell. I wound up, I had to go to Vietnam, get my own parts to put in them engines and stuff so they can ship them. So I had 14,000 pounds of parts, wound up down in Saigon. Con Thien was where the building where support units were. I got 14,000 parts, and got them by the airport where the receivers would load up their vehicles and put them in a plane. And took them a long time to do that. It was Thanksgiving Day. I had a hot dog that day to eat, and I slept on top of my gear. I said, this gear's not going nowhere until I go with it. And that's how I left Vietnam, go to Okinawa. Yeah. Got back to Okinawa and got to Kadena, and they took the 2 pallets that I had on there loaded, and they brought them to our outfit in FSR, third FSR, third service regiment. That's what it is. And they took the parts to the supply place. I said, hey, I want my clutches and all that stuff for the motor transport. It's got to go through the supply system. Holy hell. I said, you better do it fast because I got engines ready to go and I can't ship them. And they did, and got them out. And they went to Vietnam, and the truck had to have a new windshield. They put windshield down, they put a box over it, put the truck on the ship, and the sailors would walk on it and bust the windshields. But it was going now, we didn't care. They want to do that, let them ship them. So some of them lasted only maybe 5 hours in Vietnam. They'd be blown up, and some of them come back for repair, and some you had to tear apart and use them for parts. But we had an outfit for each thing: engine, transmission, powertrain system, and everybody did their job. And I had 75 Okinawans that I had in my shop, and had an transformer, the information officer there, interpreter. And I would tell him in English, and then he would translate it to the Okinawans, what we wanted done. They did a good job. I was there 13 months. And when I left, they gave me that black clock over there. 31-day clock that Antoinette don't like on when she's watching TV. It dings every half hour. But that was fun. Yeah. So I went back to Okinawa, did that, all that, and got it ready. And they tell me I have to go back to Vietnam to teach the engine. Because the people that were there 13 months, the new guys didn't come in till just about the time they're leaving. And they didn't transfer the information to them. And that's why I had to go back to Vietnam. I had to make up a new team from Okinawa, revolving engine, so we can take the engine apart and all that stuff. And that's how I went back to Vietnam in 67. 67, I left there Thanksgiving Day, went back to Okinawa, and from there I came back to the States. And where did I go for duty? Motor Transport School. And I wound up being an assistant academic officer because now I'm an officer. I didn't get a desk job sitting behind researching anymore, and I was around moving troops around. So what happens, the people that were there, they want to go to Vietnam. So they went to Vietnam, and I wound up being the academic officer. That was easy. I did less walking. More time behind the desk, getting guys at ESP and all that stuff, extra duty. So in 68, later part of 68, I told the commanding officer, I want to go north of Mason-Dixon line and east. They wanted me, I wanted to get out, and they said, no, you got to stay. We need you so bad. I said, I had enough of this in North Carolina, because they had no sports outside, no football team, no basketball team. And all they had was tag football on the base. I was going out for football, and they said tag. I said, no, I don't want that. I want to hit somebody. And wound up with set of orders to go to Wyoming, Pennsylvania, the place where I was at in the 50s, 54, 55, 56. But they had a different building. It was a new building. And it worked out pretty good. And they had no engines there to teach the reserves. What do I have to do? Go to Letterkenny junkyard with 4 guys and a welder with a torch, cut 5 engines out of there. You know where Letterkenny's at. Put them on a truck, take them back to Wyoming, and then take them apart and get them ready to revolve and disassemble and all that. So that went over pretty good. So I taught multi-field engine to those guys. Then my instructors learned it, and then they would teach the reserves. And that's what I did there. So I retired there in 72. Yeah. January 31st, 72.
So afterwards, you mentioned that you worked for
civilian life?
Yeah.
While I was working with York Stone Supply, we had a joint Veterans Council in York. And the director of VA, he had that job, and I helped him a lot, and he took a liking to me, to how I instructed people, you know. So we would go around different organizations and try to get more people to come to the meeting. But anyhow, I was working at York Stone Supply, heavy equipment supervisor, 20 tractor trailers, haul stone to Maryland every day, 3 trips. And while we was doing that, the quarry was boom, 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 bust up stone and put it in the grader and all that. But I had the front end loaders with 10-yard, 2 10-yard loaders. The bucket was about from here to here. You get 3 ton in one scoop, pick up and put it in Euclids and haul it to the crusher. So I took care of that. I had 140 pieces of equipment at York Stone Supply to maintain. And those guys were such proud as hell when I got there after a month. You know, I get them how to work easier and get more done and less talking and get the things done. And that's how I got my job there. And I had a company car that could drive. It was a diesel. One of the first diesels was Oldsmobiles. They had to put a Chevy engine in it, and I think they made a diesel out of it, and that didn't work out for hell. Yeah, we had 15 of them that I maintained also. Yeah. Again, my diesel stuff coming in operation. So after 10 years there, I put a letter in to retire, and again, they didn't want me to leave. I said, I had enough. I was 55 years old. All my friends were dying from Agent Orange. I figured I'm going to get out of here and get some life before I kick the bucket. Because twice.
50 years later.
Huh?
And here you are 50 years later.
2 times in Vietnam, I figured I'm bound to get Agent Orange, you know? And because it's everywhere. And fortunately, knock on wood, it didn't affect me much. But that's how I wound up retired, 10 years there. So I had some spare time. In the Joint Veterans Council, they said, we need a monument in town. There were some World War II guys still living around here. And I talked to them and Barry Shep. we got a team together. We would go to schools or VFW, the American Legion, get some money. We put the World War II monument up, and 2001, we got General James, the Commandant of the Marine Corps at that time. The insurance guy, I'm trying to think of his first name. Anyhow, Mr. Gladfeld that owned the insurance company in New York, Art Gladfeld, and he was a sergeant in the Marine Corps when World War II. He was in radar. He says, "We'll get the Commandant of the Marine Corps to be our speaker." Sure enough, General James come in. He flew in at the airport, and then they come here by car from there. And he spoke, and we had over 2,000 people in Square in New York, and we dedicated that. And I was proud of that. I was the officer of the day of the program. So they said, well, now we got that one in. Let's try Korean monument. So I had 7 guys get together for the Korean monument. And we got that and going, and I was on it for 2 years. And before I got that one finished, I handed it off to somewhere. I was the finance officer for that. They wanted to start the Korean Vietnam Memorial. I said, I want that one. I want the Vietnam Memorial. So I got on that and give somebody else the Korean monument to get going. So we got a team ready for the Vietnam monument, and did the same thing. We went to the schools and VFWs and talk about it and try to get money, and we got over 250,000 for that monument. Huh?
All the bricks you sold.
Yeah, we sold 1,386 bricks with names on them. And if you served in Vietnam, you got killed, you got a gold star on your brick. Your parents did. If you got wounded, you had a blue star put on your brick. If you just donated, you had a white star put on the brick. So you could go there and pick that out real fast. And the gold stars are in front of the monument where all the guys were killed. And we had let's see, what's the girl's name? That
I'm not sure what you mean.
The
person who did
the monuments, all 3 of them.
Oh gosh.
I just talked to her the other
I
day.
know.
Now I'm getting old.
All the time.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, she was the sculptor for all 3 monuments. She did a damn good job. And you saw the Vietnam Memorial upstairs that I have there. And got that done, and it was 2009 we had that dedicated. Had over 2,000 people there that did that. And so that's the side job I had. And then being the commander of VFW for 10 years at that time. Then the Marine Corps League, 3 years. I was commandant of the detachment up there in Wyoming. Popular Street. What else did I do besides that? Flags. Put out the flags every year. Oh, I was Department of Pennsylvania Commandant and Vice Commandant. Had lots of jobs. No pay.
You kept busy though.
No pay. It was all volunteer, yeah.
Clearly you love learning. So my question would be, what was 1 or 2 things throughout your lifetime, either in the service or after serving, that you would pass on to the younger generation?
Oh, responsibility I would pass on, guaranteed. And automotive now, maintenance, you got to be a technician now to be a mechanic. Now you got to have no shade tree mechanics no more. Got to have equipment. That's too expensive. I would say responsibility would be, you need that to do anything. Respect and responsibility.
So you want to talk about your family at all?
Oh yeah, they were good kids. Yeah, I had 2 sons and a daughter.
Any great grandkids?
2. Oh,
No, not
no.
great grand.
No
They
great
They
both
just-
got
they
engaged.
just,
Oh, okay. I didn't ask this at the beginning, but why did you join the Marine Corps? Do you have any?
oh, I loved it. I went to the movies and when I saw Guadalcanal Diary,
Uh-huh.
when they killed all them Japanese, I said they needed to be killed. I want to help join. I want to get that. Well, when I picked up the machine gun, I changed my attitude. I want a different job.